The power of coaches and GMs has been decreasing the last couple years. Players have often more influence in trades than a team's front office, using their superstar status or friendships to initiate moves instead of the front offices discussing trades. Kawhi getting Paul George, KD getting Harden, Kyrie, Patty Mills, and more. But none is as prominent as LeBron. Previously, I made a video about why the 2021 to 2022 Lakers are destined to fail. I'll link it right now so I don't repeat everything in the video, but the main talking points in it are about LeBron's power with being the most popular player in the league right now. With LeBron's status in the league, he's able to be a judge, jury, and executioner for any team he's on, or in basketball terms, player, coach, and GM. This is only further propagated by LeBron's popularity and ego, having millions of fans chant for you versus the rest of the team, being the face of the league, and millions of people posting you on social media, and even being brought up in GOAT debates. With popularity comes power and protection. People are more likely to go along with you, whether it be from actual admiration or simply fear, which is exactly what I'm going to get into. Previously, we talked about the small market effect and how much a player is willing to stay loyal to that franchise as opposed to big market players following the money or ring chasing. On top of this, small markets create this effect of less stress, less pressure, less things weighing on your performance, and so you are just able to simply play. An article by Balls Are Life that I mentioned in the small market video is so perfect that I have to quote it again for the second time. It reads the following, quote, "Similarly, by playing in a larger market, many NBA fans of those markets expect more from their star players. This added pressure can be difficult on an NBA player and can lead to decreased efficiency and ability. Larger markets are notorious for their fans' expectations, and not being able to live up to those expectations can be detrimental to a player's future success with that team and with any teams they may play for." End quote. Which is exactly the point I want to make. But also, now imagine that rather than the stigma of a team's reputation, it was from one single player. Well, that is the case right now. The NBA has one player at the center of it, and that is King James. And just like kings of the past, his rule is a tyranny, in which he will execute his gestures at the first chance he gets if they fail to make him laugh. LeBron James has the media attention that then trickles down to attention on everyone else. With LeBron James' popularity increasing and GM's influence decreasing, again, he can make any moves he wants. And like a team drafting a rookie, he's expecting a performance when recruiting. If that performance isn't met, you are traded away and left to fend for yourself with what credibility and reputation you may have. The problem is, players know this as soon as they're on a roster with the king himself. They have to run the gauntlet, making both LeBron and the fans at home happy. One foul too many or 1 point too less, and you may not even be in the league next year. This adds an unbelievable amount of pressure when playing next to LeBron James, as we mentioned earlier. Pressure is enough to make anyone underperform, even professional basketball players. And we see it everywhere LeBron goes. Even if the team isn't a large market to start off with, LeBron himself is the market. This pulls media attention to the team, and with more and more cameras on LeBron, his teammates have more and more cameras by proxy. And if a player makes a mistake, it's pushed all over social media, until that is the only thing remembered about the player. Kevin Love explains it perfectly in these interview clips.
I'm just curious from your perspective. You're friends with Russ, friends with LeBron, we're his teammate. And because it's the Lakers and because it's LeBron, like the amount of scrutiny that those guys have to deal with, is it fair? Is it unfair? Is it spot on? What's your sort of perspective on it?
Yeah, I mean, I've always said that Bron has like a gravitational pull, right? Like everybody, the media, you know, people that love him, people that hate him, people that love the Lakers, hate the Lakers, all media. I mentioned that already, but like everybody just like focuses on that. So any step in the wrong direction, people are just gonna like take that and just keep just grinding away on it. And it's tough. I mean, it's obviously a massive media market. Everybody expects the Lakers to do great things, especially with having a big three, with, you know, even with AD being out, they expect big things from him. But it's tough. Like, I played with Bron, and we were under a lot of scrutiny as well in Cleveland, and we had great expectations, and people were saying, finals or championship or bust. So with that, every little misstep, or you lose 3 in a row, or you're hovering around 500, it's just, a dozen different storylines. It's a soap opera. People always got to have stuff to talk about, 24/7, 365 media presence and different storylines. If not, it's, you're not going to get your ratings. People aren't going to watch the show. I mean, it's just a fact.
I mean, that's why I asked you. That's literally the reason I asked you. You live that. You live that.
You could tell by the SportsCenter Instagram of how much they put LeBron up, no matter what happens with him, that it's a numbers thing.
No, it's totally a numbers thing. And I mean, listen, like JJ said, he's the greatest player of our generation, and in the GOAT talks, like, and people are going to follow his every move. So his team, if somebody's not performing, or somebody is, messing up, the Lakers season, so they say, then, they're going to be the scapegoat.
And you had to adjust to playing with LeBron.
And sacrifice. I think really of any position or anybody on the team, I felt I did have to sacrifice the most. And so my, call it adjustment period, or learning curve was likely a lot steeper than most or all on the team. So, you're going to get the finger pointed at you. I went from being, an all-NBA, all-star guy to then being that third option, I think.
LeBron then builds off the decrease in value and makes moves in the trade market. We've seen it happen on every team that LeBron has played for. For instance, the 2018 Cavaliers. SB Nation explains it perfectly, saying, quote, "In the span of a little more than an hour, the Cavs traded 6 players and a first-round pick to 4 teams in 3 separate deals for 4 new players. They weren't playing around with all the drama inside and out of the locker room in the past few weeks. When the dust settled, the Cavaliers added George Hill, Rodney Hood, Jordan Clarkson, and Larry Nance Jr. in exchange for Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder, Channing Free, Dwayne Wade, Iman Shumpert, Derrick Rose, and their own 2018 first-round pick. The Cavs made all the moves they deemed necessary to stay competitive in the playoffs while they still have LeBron James on the roster. Of course, there are also motives to keep James happy enough to stay in Cleveland after his contract expires this summer." End quote. There's also obviously the Cavs prior to that, with, of course, Kyrie Irving. Quote, "He was convinced and remains convinced, maybe not now, maybe now because he's so enlightened, that LeBron wanted him gone, that LeBron wanted him traded, that LeBron wanted to bring in his guys, and that's when he decided to go. It wasn't that Gilbert was maybe going to trade him, the fact that he thought LeBron wanted him moved on, and now LeBron denies that that was ever the case." End quote. Then more recently, there's Kyle Kuzma, who played terribly in LA with LeBron, and people made jokes he was headed to the Shanghai Sharks. Afterwards, Kuzma was traded to the Wizards, where he's playing phenomenally. In fact, this seems to be the case most of the time. Players tend to play better without LeBron than with him. Dwayne Wade, Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder, Derrick Rose, and Kyrie Irving all had some of their worst seasons in Cleveland with the supposed King James. Now, don't go hating on me. I know the reason for this is obvious. As Kevin Love said, when LeBron joins a team, he automatically becomes the first option. And if he isn't, he uses his elite status to make himself the first option. again threatening to leave the team if him and his teammates aren't used the way he wants. Now obviously as a team, these players are very, very successful, winning championships together. But individually, not so much. Teammates have to then change their game to fit around LeBron, and not everyone can make that adjustment. When LeBron joined the Cavs, Kevin Love went from being the first option all the way to the third option. He also had to adjust his shooting to fit more of a 3-ball. In doing this, his percentages dropped, stats dropped, usage dropped, and so on. Immediately, everyone was discussing how Kevin Love so-called fell off without diving in any further. And the media did everything they could to protect LeBron as the man that was carrying the Cavs to a championship. Now we jump to this year, and the curse remains, with Westbrook of course having one of his worst seasons in his career and getting ridiculed. The fact that he is in LA makes it even worse. The NBA has some of its highest ratings when the Lakers are playing, and the Lakers are possibly the biggest market in the NBA right now. Once again, being on the Lakers and playing with LeBron brings the cameras and media attention, and every missed shot is pushed to our front page of Instagram or Twitter. Except when Russ has a phenomenal game like he did the other day, it's forgotten about in a couple of hours. With his recent performances, Lakers and NBA fans have teared into him and ruined his once elite reputation as a point guard. Westbrook simply isn't built to play around the popularity of both LeBron and LA, and many aren't. We may very well see Westbrook thrown out the door like LeBron has done so many times before, as Russ tries to see what teams will still take him with his reputation and trade stock destroyed. You can't underperform with LeBron or you're seen as terrible for the rest of your career. But inversely, you can't overperform either. LeBron must hold his glory, continuing to get higher and higher stats, and players like AD have theirs fall. The media then continues to propagate how great LeBron James is and protect his legacy. And thus, the cycle continues. LeBron gains glory for a high stat line, his popularity increases, and his popularity allows him to puppeteer the entire league. NBA careers are doomed to be broken as soon as they are paired with the tyrant. Playing with LeBron James, while it may come with championships, is a curse. LeBron James is a devil that is being shielded by his fame and fans, but unfortunately, it isn't going to change for the rest of his NBA career.